Khoekhoe singular Khoekhoe or Khoekhoe in the former orthography, formerly also Hottentots, a term now considered offensive, are the traditionally nomadic pastoralist indigenous population of southwestern Africa. They are often grouped with the hunter-gatherers and literally foragers peoples. The designation Khoekhoe is actually a care or praise address, not an ethnic endonym, but it has been used in the literature as an ethnic term for Khoe-speaking peoples of southern Africa, particularly pastoralist groups such as the Orogona, Namaziri and Nukho nations. While the presence of Khoekhoe in southern Africa predates the Bantu expansion according to a scientific theory based mainly on linguistic evidence, it is not clear when the Khoekhoe began inhabiting the areas where the first contact with Europeans occurred, possibly in the late Stone Age. At that time in the 17th century, the Khoekhoe maintained large herds of Nguni cattle in the Cape region. They mostly gave up nomadic pastoralism in the 19th to 20th century. Their Khoekhoe language is related to certain dialects spoken by foraging San peoples of the Kalahari, such as the Kame and Tieswa, forming the Kho language family. The main Khoekhoe subdivisions today are the Nama people of Namibia, Botswana and South Africa, with numerous clans, the Nukho House of Namibia, the Arana clans of South Africa, such as Hokoena or Amankasini, the Zirikwa or Griqua nation of South Africa, and the Amakenkweb or Gona clans, which fall under the Xhosa-speaking polities. The Zirikwa clans Griqua developed their own ethnic identity in the 19th century and settled in Griqualand. They are related to the same kinds of clan formations as the Rehoboth Bastards, who could also be considered a Khoekhoe people. The broad ethnic designation of Khoekhoe, meaning the peoples originally part of a pastoral culture and language group to be found across southern Africa, is thought to refer to a population originating in the northern area of modern Botswana. This culture steadily spread southward, eventually reaching the Cape approximately 2,000 years ago. Khoekhoe groups include Awakhoen to the west, and Kaixabakhoena of South and Mid-South Africa, and the Eastern Cape. Both of these terms mean red people, and are equivalent to the Xhosa term Amakuba. Husbandry of sheep, goats and cattle grazing in fertile valleys across the region provided a stable, balanced diet, and allowed these lifestyles to spread, with larger groups forming in a region previously occupied by the subsistence foragers. Nchu-speaking agriculturalist culture is thought to have entered the region in the 3rd century AD, pushing pastoralists into the western areas. The example of the close relation between the Urithe's high clan, a cattle-keeping population, and the Uritheona high clan children, a more or less sedentary forager population also known as strandloopers, both occupying the area of Khoekhoe, shows that the strict distinction between these two lifestyles is unwarranted, as well as the ethnic categories that are derived. Foraging peoples who ideologically value non-accumulation as a social value system would be distinct, however, but the distinctions among Khoekhoe pastoralists and hunter-gatherers and Bantu agriculturalists do not hold up to scrutiny and appear to be historical reductionism. Khoe-speaking peoples traded with seafarers from all over the globe for centuries, going back into ancient times, and this undoubtedly included some Europeans, perhaps even Roman vessels. But Portuguese explorers and merchants are the first to record their contacts. In the 15th and 16th centuries AD, the ongoing encounters were often violent. In 1510 at the Battle of Salt River, Francisco de Almeida and 50 of his men were killed and his party were defeated 7-8 by ox-mounted Uri Lake Goring Aqua, in Dutch approximate spelling, which was one of the so-called Khoekhoe clans of the area that also included the Uritheona Goringakana, also known as strandloopers, said to be the ancestors of the Ora nation of today. In the late 16th century, Portuguese, French, Danish, Dutch and English, but mainly Portuguese ships regularly continued to stop over in Table Bay en route to the Indies. They traded tobacco, copper and iron with the Khoekhoe-speaking clans of the region, in exchange for fresh meat. Local population dropped after smallpox contagion was spread through European activity. The Khoekhoe-speaking clans suffered high mortality as immunity to the disease was rare. This increased as military conflict with the intensification of the colonial expansion of the United East India Company that began to enclose traditional grazing land for farms. Over the following century, the Khoekhoe-speaking peoples were steadily driven off their land, resulting in numerous northwards migrations and the reformulation of many nations and clans, as well as the dissolution of many traditional structures. According to Professors Robert K. Hitchcock and Wayne A. Babchuk, during the early phases of European colonization, tens of thousands of Khoekhoe and San peoples lost their lives as a result of genocide, murder, physical mistreatment, and disease. Khoekhoe social organization was thus profoundly damaged by the colonial expansion and land seizure from the late 17th century onwards. As social structures broke down, many Khoekhoe settled on farms and became bondsmen, bondservants, serfs, or farm workers. Others were incorporated into clans that persisted. George Schmidt, a Moravian brother from Hohenhut, Saxony, now Germany, founded Genadendel in 1738, which was the first mission station in southern Africa, among the Khoekhoe-speaking peoples in Baviaanskloof, in the Riviersonderend Mountains.